Amadi, a humble blacksmith, is chosen by the spirits to wield the iron soul, a mystical armor tied to the land's power. When the ruthless warlord Kovu invades, Amadi must rise to protect his people. With the help of Zuri, a fierce huntress, and Ekamini, a healer, Amadi embarks on a journey to defeat Kovu and restore balance. But the weight of his powers may come at a cost. Will he become the protector his people need, or will he be consumed by the darkness he fights? The evening sky bled with the vibrant oranges and pinks of a setting sun, casting a soft glow over Amadi's village. The wind carried with it the scents of fresh earth and sage, mingling with the deep, warm notes of burning wood. As the villagers gathered in a circle to honor their ancestors, Amadi stood apart, his eyes cast downward, his fingers tracing the iron bracelet that had once belonged to his mother, Ebub. The bracelet felt cool to the touch, but there was an undeniable hum, a faint pulse, as if it were alive. Ebub had always been enigmatic, a woman of wisdom, whose every word held layers of meaning. "You are bound to this land, Amadi," she had said before her passing. "The forest will call you when the time comes, and the bracelet will mark you. When the land suffers, so will you. But you must choose how to wield it." Amadi hadn't understood her words then, and he didn't fully understand them now. But he could feel the weight of his mother's legacy bearing down on him. The Festival of Ancestors had always been a time of joy, a celebration of life and memory. But tonight, as the elders sang praises of those who had come before, a shadow loomed over the gathering. A chill in the air cut through the warmth of the bonfire. Amadi's senses prickled, a deep unease taking root in his gut. Without warning, the air grew dense, and the drumming slowed to an eerie halt. A gust of wind swept through the village, extinguishing the bonfire's flames in an instant. The villagers' murmurs faded as a dark figure emerged from the shadows, his presence heavy, suffocating. Kovu, a name spoken in hushed tones, had arrived, clad in jagged black armor, his face obscured by a chilling mask. He radiated an aura of brutality and control. His mercenaries flanked him, all silent, their eyes hidden behind lifeless, ghostly masks. "We come for tribute," Kovu's voice rang out, cold as the night air. "Your people will submit, or they will perish." Fear rippled through the crowd, but Amadi stood still, his heart hammering in his chest. Kovu's mercenaries moved swiftly, binding the villagers, dragging them toward the center of the village. The elders' attempts to resist were met with violence, and Amadi's breath caught as he watched Elder Chika, his closest confidant, being hauled away. His words still clear in Amadi's mind. "Amadi, remember what I have told you," Elder Chika said, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. "You are the iron soul. The bracelet, your mother's gift, it is more than just a trinket. It is your guide. You must stop him." But Amadi was frozen, unsure of what he could do. His mother's legacy felt like a burden rather than a blessing. How could he fight this darkness? As the mercenaries dragged the villagers into the distance, Amadi was left standing alone in the wake of destruction. The village, once filled with life, now felt empty, hollow. He collapsed by the remnants of the bonfire, his hand clutching the bracelet as if it might offer some comfort. The cold metal bit into his skin. In the stillness, a voice broke through the silence, a whisper like the rustling of leaves, ancient and familiar. "Amadi." He looked up, startled. Before him stood a figure, Ngai, the spirit of the forest, her form shifting like sunlight through the trees. Her presence filled him with both awe and fear. "You are the protector now," she spoke, her voice resonating with the sound of ancient trees creaking in the wind. The forest mourns the suffering brought by Kovu. The earth weeps, but it will not heal without you. Amadi felt a surge of power, but with it, a sharp, piercing pain in his chest. The bracelet pulsed with an otherworldly energy, transforming into sleek, rune-covered armor that encased his body. It was a gift from the forest, but also a burden. He could feel the weight of it, pressing against his soul. The power you bear is not without cost, Ngai continued, her eyes filled with ancient wisdom. Every life it touches, every step you take, will carry the pain of the land. You must choose. Will you be its shield, or will you fall into darkness like Kovu? The forest seemed to hold its breath as Amadi nodded. He didn't fully understand the price, but he knew one thing for certain. He could not stand idly by while his people suffered. Amadi set off into the forest, determined to find a way to stop Kovu. The forest, once a place of peace, now felt like a labyrinth of whispers and shadows. As he ventured deeper, he encountered Zuri, a huntress, who seemed as much a part of the forest as the trees themselves. Zuri had the eyes of someone who had seen too much, someone who had lost everything. Her village had been ravaged by Kovu's forces, and she had learned to survive by trusting only herself. You think you can save them? Zuri's voice was sharp, laced with sarcasm. The land's already lost. Kovu's power is too great for one man to stop. But Amadi, though burdened, was resolute. I don't seek to save the land alone. I seek to fight for it alongside the people who believe in it. Zuri scoffed at his words, but nonetheless agreed to join him, her skills as a tracker invaluable. Together, they journeyed deeper into the forest, facing challenges that tested not only their physical endurance, but their emotional resilience. They were two souls bound by grief, but each found strength in the other's presence, despite their differences. Their travels brought them to Ekamini, a reclusive herbalist who had once been a warrior. Ekamini had retreated into the forest after losing her family to Kovu's mercenaries. She had seen firsthand the destruction he wrought. I thought I could hide from it, Ekamini confessed, her voice heavy with regret. But Kovu's greed will not be satisfied until everything is destroyed. And I have seen too much pain to ignore it any longer. Ekamini revealed the Heartstone, an artifact of immense power, tied to the very soul of the forest. It had been corrupted by Kovu, and if allowed to remain in his hands, it would destroy the balance of nature itself. I owe the land more than I can ever repay, she said, placing a hand on Amadi's shoulder. The Heartstone must be destroyed, or Kovu's reign will never end. The path to Kovu's fortress was not easy. They faced serpent spirits guarding the rivers, illusions that preyed on their deepest fears, and mercenaries who sought to stop them at every turn. Each challenge was a trial not only of their strength, but of their will to continue. Amadi began to feel the weight of the bracelet, the armor pressing against his skin like a constant reminder of his duty. But with every trial, his resolve hardened. He was no longer the uncertain blacksmith. He was the iron soul, bound to the land, the people, and the spirits. One night, as they camped by a river, Zuri spoke quietly. Do you ever wonder if it's worth it? All this pain, is it worth it to fight for something that might already be lost? Amadi looked at her, his gaze steady. If we don't fight, then what's left? It's the fight that matters, not just the victory, but the stand we take. When they finally reached Kovu's fortress, it was worse than they had imagined. The land was scorched, the trees felled, and the river choked with ash. The Heartstone pulsed with an unnatural energy at the center of the fortress, its power corrupting the air around it. Kovu awaited them, his armor blackened by the Heartstone's influence. You think you can take this from me? He sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. I've sacrificed everything for this power. You will never take it back. The battle that followed shook the very earth. Amadi fought with the fury of a man who had nothing left to lose. But the weight of the armor made every movement a struggle. Kovu was a force of nature, unstoppable, until Amadi summoned the power of the forest itself. With a roar, Amadi slammed his fist into the ground, calling upon the ancient spirits to rise. The forest answered, vines and roots bursting from the earth to ensnare Kovu. The villagers, inspired by his courage, stormed the fortress, overwhelming the mercenaries. In the final moments, Amadi merged his armor's power with the Heartstone, using the forest's light to purify it. The Heartstone shattered, its darkness dissipating, and Kovu was turned to stone, his power broken. As the first light of dawn touched the horizon, the earth began to heal. Amadi stood before the people of his village, exhausted but resolute. The armor, now a symbol of hope, no longer felt like a burden. The weight of the land's pain had been lifted, and in its place, a new strength had bloomed. Zuri, standing beside him, gave a rare, soft smile. "You did it, Amadi. You brought us back." Ekamini, her eyes glistening with quiet pride, nodded. "The forest will remember this day. You are its protector now, Amadi." The iron soul reborn. And as the spirits of the ancestors appeared, their forms shimmering like morning mist, they bowed to Amadi, acknowledging him as the guardian of the land, the shield of his people. Together, they would rebuild not just their homes, but the very spirit of the earth itself.